Step outside.
Everybody, hello in a good way. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our monthly Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle, IWWC. We are excited tonight. We are beyond excited tonight for a number of reasons. But before we kick off our wonderful 1 hour journey, I would just like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional owners of the tribal lands here of Okapoke-Owingeh, also known as Santa Fe, that we reside in. And we also want to acknowledge your ancestors and the lands that you are all sitting, standing, and living and breathing on. So thank you very much. Big, huge shout out to Women's History Month. Yes, this is our month, everybody. Pat yourself on the back and do that. Yeah, kiss ourselves. We're powerful women. This evening is amazing because we have been seeking out this beautiful Indigenous elder, Judy Stout, for a very long time. And I asked people, where can I find amazing Indigenous speakers that are deaf and hard of hearing? Judy Stout, Judy Stout, Judy Stout. I'm like, we got Judy Stout tonight, everybody. Judy is a member of the Lumbee tribe and resides in Pembroke, North Carolina. And Judy retired from Gallaudet University. She was there for 28 years. She retired in 2014. If those of you that don't know Gallaudet University, it's an amazing institution located in Washington, D.C. And it's been there for a long time, I believe, probably since the 1800s. Prior to retirement, Judy worked at Columbia, Missouri, and North Carolina for 5 years. And she basically provided services for parents of deaf children, and she also provided services and access for deaf adults. So kudos, Judy. Thank you for your walk. Thank you for your work. Much appreciated. So everyone, let's please welcome Elder Judy Stout from the Lumbee Nation in a good way. And welcome. Judy, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Heart, heart, heart. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And I'll come back in and join you in about half an hour when you're done with your presentation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everyone, welcome Judy.
Hello, everyone. So first, I want to go ahead and explain a little bit about myself and what I look like. So because I know we have some deafblind people here tonight. So just letting you know, my hair is gray. I am wearing a black top. And I do have some drop earrings. I have purple framed glasses on. And I do have tan colored skin, and I do have lipstick on tonight. I do have a blue ring on one of my fingers. My background is blue, and I have some golf clubs next to me as well. So again, I just want to thank everybody for joining tonight. I do appreciate you all being here. So I want to go ahead and start with my slideshows, and it will kind of explain the different topics that I have planned for tonight. And I'll go ahead and ask Elena to show the PowerPoint now. So since Tosh already went ahead and did the land acknowledgement for us tonight, I'll go ahead and jump to the next topic of discussion, which will be my life and education. And then I will talk about my identity and my Indigenous language. I will talk about the history of the Lumbee tribe, then and now. I will talk about the culture and traditions. I will also talk about the Lumbee language. And then following the Q&A, I do have some resources that I can share with you all that I use for my presentation, as well as the contact information that I have for myself. And also, if any other follow-up questions happen, I will be here as well, and you can send me an email. So I'll go ahead and start with my life and education. So I am the second of 5 siblings. I live in Pembroke, Missouri, and I lived in that county. And I grew up in a rural town with surrounded with my cousins in that area as well. I grew up with a lot of farmers, so we had animals and livestock around us, and so we were always working on helping them and also in the fields with the tobacco. And we had to plant and work hard in the fields to seed things and get everything ready for the crops and the harvest. And so now I'll go ahead and explain my education as well. So for the first 6 years of my life, I went to an Indigenous school with all of Indigenous students. And so there was not any real support services for me. So I was just in one classroom and I had to continue learning as myself. It was hard, it was a challenge. The teacher didn't know exactly how to work with me. And I just didn't have all the appropriate tools. And so I focused a lot on art. I used art as a way, whatever was in the classroom. I had books and different things that I would use to make my art and tell my stories. So I did that for a very long time, especially the first 6 years of my life, really. And it was hard to, connect with the students, but I got in trouble with them a lot. It was hard to speak, of course. So I would read and write some. And then my parents decided that I needed to go to try and get hearing aids. And so I tried that for a while, those different devices, and I was able to listen to some of the music. And so that was really exciting. I felt like I could hear a little bit better, talk a little bit better, understand what my voice was doing. Um, and a lot of the students were so amazed at what a hearing aid was. They had never seen those devices before. And so the students really wanted to try and use them. And I said, no, those are mine. So for a while, I was kind of the popular student because I had this new device and I was kind of I stood out. And the teachers were trying to figure out how I used this radio as they thought it was in the class. And I said, no, this is not a radio. This is a device to help me. And so it did make me feel a little bit estranged and I got kind of down feeling on myself. And so now fast forward to when I was a little bit older, my parents decided that once they looked at my report card, they're like, oh, you have, good grades in these other areas, but not with reading and writing. So they decided to take me to a specialized doctor to see kind of what was going on with that. So then I went to the Eastern School for the Deaf in Wilson, and there was other students there. And my parents looked at me and asked me, do you want to go learn with these other deaf students? And I was really amazed that my parents involved me in that sort of decision. And I said, yes, I would actually like that very much. It would be a new adventure for me. I'd like to take that on. So I went there one afternoon, and it was a little bit of a culture shock for me. There was all of these white girls talking with their hands. And for me, I didn't really understand much beyond gestures. So I just didn't know what all these white girls were doing talking with their hands. I was very amazed by them. And it was also very exciting at the same time. So my parents left and I tried to jump right in with the girls and talk with them. there was one girl, her name was Kathy. She was the first one to approach me, and she gave me my name sign, and that's how I got it, Judy, here on top of my hand. And so I was very excited to have that sign name. Then I went to class and I followed them around. And the principal was there too, and she was kind of telling me, you know, go to this class, you can go to this class. So I followed Kathy around to find my different classes, and it seems like we had the same classes down there. And so I'd follow her around for that afternoon. And again, I didn't know any of these students, so I kind of sat with them, didn't know who they were, just tried to follow along, read and write. I had support services back then as well to help me develop my skills in reading and writing. And so as I went on, I stayed there for a year, went on in my second year. I struggled in some of my subjects. Once I went into the third year, I was placed in a third grade classroom. The teacher decided to keep me not in the gen ed classes, but in the special ed classes. So I was a little bit behind, and I had to really develop reading and writing skills. And I was a little bit resistant to it. My teacher was very strict and tough with me about it, told me that I needed to keep up my skills. And I do remember there was one day after school, there was a group of us that went to the gym. And I saw a friend sitting there on the bench. She was reading. She was a hearing friend that was there on the bench. And they had a book and they were reading. And I went over and asked her, what are you reading? And then they explained the story to me. And I was like, you understood this without having pictures? I said, yes, of course. I just read the words and I can understand it. And so she gave me a brief description of what that story was. And I was like, wow, this is so amazing. So after that moment, I mean, that really was a defining moment in my life, that I was able to approach my teacher to continue my skills with reading and writing. And I really kind of soared after that. It was tough. I had to work hard, of course. But eventually I went up to an advanced class as well. And that was really exciting to finally get there. And then, let's see, I continued on with my education. And then I was transferred to North Carolina School for the Deaf, and that's in Morganton. And that was high school for me at that time. So I transferred there in Morganton. And so that would be my 9th grade year. And then once I was a junior, and then senior year came along pretty fast as well. And I just remember taking a chemistry class. And within that class, there was one teacher. And I was dating another student, his name's Claude, who is now my husband. But I was still a high school student at that time, and he had already graduated. But back in that chemistry class, we kind of started our relationship. And my chemistry teacher was like, what is up with you two? I don't know what you two are doing. I don't think that you should have a boyfriend at this time, because you're not going to stay together for a long time. You're probably going to break up as soon as he goes to college. You should probably get out of this relationship. But I really cared a lot about him, and he cared a lot about me, and we cared about this relationship, and we were really in love. If you want to take it, go ahead.
And so we just continued to talk, and I didn't let that teacher oppress me. He and I just continued our relationship. And when I was in my junior year, I took the exam to get into Gallaudet University. That was quite an interesting year. I remember being really nervous and trying to prepare myself to go into Gallaudet. I was talking with my former teacher at the time, who helped me with some psychology stuff and just helped me psychological stuff and helped me kind of calm my nerves to get me prepared and pass the test to get into Gallaudet University. That teacher really encouraged me to study and help me prepare, just helping with the exam, the qualification exam. And I did take the test. And was able, to feel pretty confident about that. And after a while, the students got a letter. Some people did get in and some people did not. And I was really nervous to go upstairs to my mailbox up to lunch. I got the letter and it was a really thick envelope, which was exciting because I thought that meant that I passed. So I got my chemistry teacher. And after we were done, at lunch, I went downstairs to the chemistry room and kind of went in with that. And the chemistry teacher said, "Oh, I know that, I've known you since you were younger, and I know that you could do it, but you've had, at least you'll have your boyfriend for sure, regardless of if you get in or not." And I kind of showed him that I said, "Well, I have this letter and see, I passed." And so he was shocked that I passed. And from then on out, I always learned that I should trust myself. And I never had really experienced a teacher who had oppressed me before. And I felt happy that I got to actually stand my own ground in that moment. And I learned from my father and my grandfather that you have to really stand up for yourself. And people look down on other people because of our language. And that, we have to teach ourselves a lot. And I'm very thankful for that opportunity. So I went into Gallaudet University after I graduated college or high school, excuse me. And some people asked me how I was so good at it, because a lot of students, they would leave, which is true. And I was fortunate to have my Cloud and a close friend that were there at Gallaudet University and that were really helping to support me. And I was separated from home, but which was a challenge, but we had a good group of people to support each other. I heard from friends that helped me through the first couple years. I felt really down on myself. I felt not very confident, not being at home. And after 2 years, I found my own passion and ready drive to continue through the rest of my years in college. So now, next slide. Yes. So you can see this picture. This is of my grandparents. I love them so much. My grandfather's side. I don't have a picture of my grandmother's side, unfortunately, of my mother's side. So this is who lived near me as I was growing up. They took good care of me. I always got to visit them. We'd go over there a lot. I would fish a lot with my grandparents and my parents and my grandmother. So yeah, they really treated me well. I'd like to talk about one thing about my grandmother. When she and my grandmother got together when I was in college, I went to go visit my grandmother and my grandfather out by the farm. I don't necessarily remember, but my grandmother said, it was after I went back to school that went to go visit my grandmother again, as they wanted to hear about how I was going. And they said, "Well, why did you go with a white boy?" And they had kind of the Lumbee speak that. So, I said, "I love him. He communicates well. It's nice to be able to sign. He's smart. He's motivated." And my grandmother said, "Well, you should go with our types of people." And and not go with somebody that's such a different culture. You should go with a Lumbee man. And, because somebody like that, but somebody like that wouldn't have a future for me because it's not able to communicate, and it would really be a dead end for me. So I had to try to explain to my grandmother at that time to get her to understand, and she did eventually accept that that was my choice. And speaking of the Lumbee language, my grandmother's family really dates back. A lot of people do speak English, but when they get together or socialize, they usually do speak Lumbee English, or writing sometimes Lumbee English. Same thing with ASL. You use ASL and you can have the structure of ASL, but writing it in that structure using English language. It's a kind of a similar concept for Lumbee English. So how did we kind of come up with Lumbee English? Well, Lumbee English began quite some time ago. We got together with different tribes and in the area, and there's Silversmith Queen English, and the 21 other different families moved to Kiva and settled there. They built a life there, and Indigenous people met other Indigenous people there, and so started to socialize and realized that the other leader, male, who was working with them, with that family, realized that they needed certain supplies and certain equipment. John went back on the boat back to England and brought back more supplies for them. And he came back after 3 years and found out that those people had disappeared, but noticed that there was writing on the gates and the doors, certain inscriptions of native names, and was kind of perplexed by that and tried to figured out that this group of families had that they moved on to somewhere else, and that they had moved south from North and settled in North Carolina in the swamp areas. So we learned that the white man's way of living and speaking English and how they dressed and Christianity, when we were socializing with them, and we had mixed language speech because of having to interact with them, and that's how Lumbee English came to be. We do have our own voice dialect, vocal dialect, and as well our grammar, structure, syntax, and anything else like any other language. What I would recommend is that, tobacco, the sign for tobacco, they would say bakker. So a lot of families will always say, she done messed up, or cut or smash, which means like turn off the light. So we'd always talk something like that growing up. We'd always say, Lumbee English phrases, and that's just how we spoke. Sorry, I just had to deal with that. It's, back in the day, we would say like potatoes, yeller, done messed up. So just kind of grammar and speech like that. And lastly, I want to mention the identity and race and language. To check that out, there's a book at the library, and you can check it out online, that has more information about our language. And I'll share that on the last slide. But I do want to share a brief story with you. Kathy, the woman that I mentioned earlier, she invited me over to her home, and I would invite her to my home. And it was interesting to see how our different cultures lived. But I would go over to her house and have the opportunity to see and be exposed to the white culture world and learn how we had adjusted differently from them. And it was interesting. I went to Kathy's home one night for dinner. And her mother was really impressed with my mother. And we sat down and said that, got to talking. And she said that my mother wasn't smart eventually because of how she spoke and how she had the accent. And it became something that I understood how I identified myself, that we speak differently. And it's almost like, how if you speak French or Spanish or different languages, I understand more about myself. But at the time, I felt ashamed about that there was something wrong with that, but it's not. I just had to learn to accept that that was part of our language and that the identity behind that is important. And since then, I've become a lot more proud of how we speak and of our culture and how we socialize. Next slide. And now I want to talk about the history of the Lumbee tribe. We are the largest tribe in North Carolina, firstly, and the largest tribe in the east of the Mississippi River. So the whole east of the Mississippi River, we're the largest tribe in the nation. And we do have over 60,000 Lumbee people in the tribe. So we are on the radar, and they're starting to find out more information about the Lumbees who are in different areas around the country as well. And there's different types of professions, and really the tribe community is quite diverse, and we're still finding of other people in the community, like in Washington, D.C., there's lawyers, and there's people who work at the White House who are starting to, people who are going to college and distributing grants. And I did already talk briefly with you about how the Lumbee English speak and learned the white man's way of living. So now I want to talk about something else about during the 1870s, at that time, there was a lot of discrimination and oppression and segregation from white races from other races. And there was a lot of oppression, a lot of just divisiveness during that time in the 1870s. And young boys would look at how these white groups were so hostile to Indians and indigenous people and kill them, and saw how they treated other people and would kill them in front of others. And they would make black slaves in front of their parents, and really be atrocious to other people's races. And it was, just very hurtful. But that there were these just gangs of people who would kind of fight against each other and kill them. Yeah. Go ahead.
And so at that time, we were trying to get the food, get the crops, everything, trying to feed our own people. And people were stealing our food. And so we had no way of even feeding our own. And so that went on for several years. And then finally, one day, they disappeared. And so we were so thankful that we had the help, that we are able to come back as an Indigenous people and survive and go through that. And so now, to this day, we do have a play that's The Way of the Wind, and that it's about the storytelling of that event, and it's how we became established as a free nation. And so we want to thank our history and those people that were involved in that event. Then in 1958, I was talking with some of my parents and my grandparents that lived through that time and experienced it, because they were born relatively close to that time, so they were very young when that happened. So my mother didn't quite remember, but my father remembered all of the events from during that time. And so it was the Battle of the Pond, and that was when the KKK was involved and the Lumbee leader was there as well, and they took on the KKK. And the KKK usually strategize and plan several ways of trying to keep the Indigenous people segregated and down. And the Lumbee people got together and came up with a plan, and they decided to have a meeting. And it was at the barber shop, and they were planning how they could stop the KKK from hurting the Lumbee people. And so they finally worked out the plan. They got together, and they saw that the KKK was also having a specialized meeting. And again, this event was called the Battle of the Pond. And it wasn't far from Pemberkey, where I grew up. It was very close, another town very close by. And so they worked out this plan, and there was 500 strong Lumbee people that arrived to this Battle of the Pond. And there's about 100 KKK members, and the battle started off. And as soon as it started, the KKK knew that they could not take on the 500 Lumbee people. So that really started the reaction of all of them battling and fighting. No one was killed, but the KKK became very, very afraid of the Lumbee people because they were so overpowered. So they retreated. And the leader wife was also there. And she fell in a ditch, and she was stuck there for quite some time. And it wasn't until, I'm sorry, excuse the interpreter, the KKK's wife's leader was there that fell in the ditch, and the Lumbee people helped her. They weren't going to leave her there in the ditch. And so again, that shows our compassion and shows our respect for other people. And so of course, the police arrested the KKK leaders and all of the people that were there. And now there's an Indigenous celebration. It's the Day of the Fire. And we celebrate different things. And also on that day, we gather all of the KKK memorabilia and everything that they had, and we threw it into a fire and danced around it and really celebrated our success. And so we were proud of that moment that we overpowered the KKK and got them out of our way and got them arrested and basically took care of them. And we were able to take our own land back. And that again was all because of our Lumbee people. And there's another story, another historical event in 1956 that Congress, so I'm trying to remember exactly how it started. So I think it was years before 1956, so it might have been going back to 1888. The Lumbee fought for federal recognition, and we've been fighting for it for a very long time. And it wasn't until 1956 that it was finally recognized. And the president went ahead and signed that recognition to make sure that the Lumbee and Indigenous people were recognized, but it did not give them full benefits. And so fast forwarding to today, so again, 1956, they passed the act, but there was no benefits for the Lumbee people. So now, to this day, literally 2023, it's been many, many years if we think about it. I mean, over 60 years really at this point, that we have bipartisanship in Congress that are supporting the Lumbee for federal recognition. So we have both parties supporting this act and this legislation. And this one is the Lumbee Act, which should include full benefits, and it should follow the federal recognition for the Lumbee tribe. And so we're hoping for that to pass because that would be great, great news. So we're waiting for that today, or we're waiting for that still to go through today. And our current tribal chairman is John Lowry, and also our current chief. So he has been going and working with Congress for several years now. And it's time, it really is time that we get our federal recognition completely. And again, we've been around for many, many years, and this has been in the works for hundreds of years. And there is one senator that before he had our support, he was on our side. And then there was, our tribe was also working with him, trying to work together. Again, trying to get that full federal recognition for the Lumbee tribe. And we were funded briefly, but then the bill got lost and it wasn't supported. And so there was another 20-year timeline that we were struggling back and forth with Congress to get this recognized. But now we have both Republicans and Democratic parties sponsoring this and in support. And so we really, really, as a Lumbee tribe, have our own chief and have our own officers, and we have our own way of living, and we have our own land. And then, let's see, what was the name? I'm trying to remember the name of the senator. Let's see. Oh, I do have to go back. I did forget something. So within, and I'm sure my husband's watching me stumble through this, but there's just a lot of ways that, the Lumbee is out there. We're just fighting for full recognition and fighting for everybody to be aware of us. If you could go to the next slide.
That was Kevin Sampson.
Thank you. And we do have our own cultural traditions as well. So the first week of July, we do have the powwow. And it's a full week-long celebration that includes parades, a pageant, arts and crafts, meals together. This past year, we had thousands and thousands of people come for the celebration and be included in the powwow. And it was one of the largest celebrations that we had because, of course, COVID kind of impacted everything for a while. But this recent year was when they had the largest powwow. It was really, really impressive to see that it was one of the largest turnouts.
The fifth largest powwow.
And so we have several other traditions as well. The play, strike at the wind, the hog killing as well. And if we could go to the next slide. Oh, and here is also one of my favorites that I like to talk about. So we do have an Indian medicine man that's very strong in our culture. And we have strong medicine beliefs within the Lumbee tribe. So anytime you have different illnesses, a stomach ache, headache, anything like that, you can see the elder for help. And so there are different rituals that they think they can help deaf people become hearing, but it didn't really work for me in that way. So that's pretty much it on that slide. I did share with you a little bit about my history growing up, that my parents wanted me to become a hearing person, but it didn't work out for me in that way. And my mother tried to use different herbs with me. She tried to say, use this herb. And there is one plant that I don't remember the name of it, but you grind it in a pot and she told me to drink that, and I was like, I don't know if I should drink this. It smelled kind of odd. But then I did, and so that does help as well. I don't use it often, and I haven't used it in quite some time. And if we could go to the next slide. And so this one is my last slide, and it's the resources on the Lumbee tribe and also the contact information as well. So feel free to contact me at any time for more information if you'd like. Or if you'd like to ask me any other questions, feel free to email me. I'm happy to help with that as well. So any information you need will be here on this slide.
All right, that is amazing, Judy. Thank you very much for that wonderful, wonderful presentation. I was doing research yesterday on the Lumbee tribe, and honestly, I was absolutely blown away that in 1956, the Lumbees were the second largest tribe next to the Navajos. And all kinds of wonderful articles I was able to read about your tribe from prior to 1835. You were all able to vote. You guys went around you for the Trail of Tears. So if I'm correct, your tribe didn't join the Trail of Tears, so you didn't end up in Oklahoma. So much I learned about you all just in trying to get prepared for knowing a little bit about your tribe. So thank you very much for that. And I just have 3 really quick questions for you. And this is Women's History Month. Can you tell us what you think about that? And is it something you acknowledge about Women's History Month?
Yeah. I do notice that there are more and more women coming up today, and they're empowering themselves. That are getting, more higher paid jobs. And there are a lot of great things with women, a lot of skills. The women can do anything, and do notice that women have a great ability to imagine, which is really impressive. And especially with one of my favorites is Hillary Clinton. So that's one of my favorites. And there's a few others, deaf women as well, that are really impressed with them. And because she was the Secretary of State, and oh my gosh, just really took care of a lot of things and tied up a lot of loose ends before any other leaders would do their jobs. She would take care of things and clean up anything that needed to be done. And I wish that she became the president, because then we would have had a lot of great things to do today for all of us, especially women, women in America and women outside of the country as well. So yes, now, of course, we have a lot of wonderful Indigenous women, and Deborah Holland, for example, is our current Secretary of Energy, and there really are expanding a lot of women in offices, and I look forward to seeing the future and how we can continue to progress in our lives and in our society. I am also impressed with Tosh and Elena with your Indigenous Ways Festival. It's really, really impressive and great that you're celebrating special women and kind of raising up different people that you can recognize in the community, because we do all have that community. And, you know, I know that there are deaf women out there, and there are new faces on, you know, on the horizon. And I think that we should believe in each other and work together to accomplish our goals.
Thank you very much for that, Judy. The other question I have for you, which is about identity. You have mixed and mingled and swayed and amalgamated, like your tribe, the Lumbees, who have let the Siouan people, the other language dialects into your culture dating back to 12,000 years BC. Unbelievable. That's another thing I learned in the research I got yesterday. So you are a representation of the Lumbee tribe because you also have been in Indian school, deaf school, mainstream public school, and spent so many years teaching at Gallaudet University, which is just amazing access for deaf and hard of hearing people, and the few blessed hearing allies that find themselves onto your campus in Washington, D.C. How do you identify yourself in all those cultures? Like, do you have a preference, or can you talk to us a little bit about all these different worlds you mingle in?
Yeah, so really I identify as me, and I'm a whole person as a Lumbee. And there are a lot of different people with your tribes and culture, and I try to appreciate mine and who I am as a whole person. That's really how I identify. I identify as Judy, and I try to not focus on the differences. I am proud, and I'm able to continue on with life and not let anyone oppress me for who I am. And I just keep going. And I don't understand the experience of oppression. And what I mean is, you know, you can't let oppression happen. And I've learned not to compare, because what happened a long time ago when I was in high school and in college is way different than I am now. And I am who I am. And I have to be proud of that, of who I married and of who he is, and my relationship, and be happy with the life that I have. So that's how I identify as a Lumbee woman, being who I am.
Thank you so much for that, Judy. That's beyond beautiful. You make wisdom look very enticing, as you have fended off oppression and not let any of that become a definition of who you are, because very obviously you are a super, super empowered elder. So many of us just honor you with so much, you have so much dignity and grace, even the way you look, the way you hold yourself, the way you speak. I love Lumbee English just speaking to you. That's really cool. So I understand all that. Last question, and then I'm going to pass it over to Elena, is our theme every year since we started this Indigenous Ways Wisdom Circle. This is our 3rd year now. So the word that we ask all of our presenters is, what does the word gathering mean to you?
Oh, yeah. That's important. I think that the word gathering is to share ideas. It's to share our common interests. It's share our culture, traditions, and part of the celebration of getting together, like a powwow, is to celebrate really each other and our same interests. It doesn't matter. We have to continue going with our friends. If maybe we have a disagreement, we still have the same similar interests. And that is what I think gathering is all about, is focusing on the one thing that can keep us kind of on the same page, to get us together, to host celebrations. That's what we do. It's our same interests that get us to gather. We can gather as women. We can gather as any types of people, to gather and share our types of experiences and our life and our families. And that's what gathering is about, is just having these commonalities and getting together to recognize not only the commonalities, but also individuals, people's skills, experiences, relationships. And that's what gathering is about.
Very cool. Thank you so much. Well, as we're coming to the end of the hour, very sadly, this really should be a 5-hour show. I am going to pass it over to Elena. Hey, Elena, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tash, and thank you, Judy, for that beautiful, informative medicine. I have learned so much about you, your people, particularly the Lumbee Act, and also trying to get federal recognition. I just wanted to add there, in what you're talking about as it goes through Congress, the only way that we can have a voice is like circles like this, and then the empowerment that each and every one of us has in this country, and that is to vote, to vote, to vote, to vote, because your voice and your vote help people like Judy and her people get federal recognition and the other rights that all of us have. So I want to thank you for that. What also touched me, many, many things, but you're talking about the Battle of the Pond with the KKK and the survivance not only of your ancestors, but you still being here to be able to share your stories that touch all of us. So you have a whole cohort of people, fans, loved ones, family that are here. So I'm going to whip through what I need to, and then I'm going to invite everyone in, and turning on your cameras and microphones, and just really communing with us and sharing your thoughts or any questions that you might have with Judy. But before we do that, I just want to share what's happening next month. So we do this every third Wednesday of the month, on the 19th of April, same time, same channel, same place. We've got the beautiful Amy Danette Deal, who is an enrolled member of Lumbee Nation, Navajo Nation. She is a fashion designer, and she also looks at sustainable artwear brand dedicated to producing one-of-a-kind, restored, repurposed, and loving upcycled products. She has a nonprofit as well called For Kinship, where she gives out to the community. Her project at the moment is a skateboard park for Navajo kids living on the res. That's going to be opening next month. She's going to be here to tell us all about that. She's also on our first Indigenous Ways Festival. We'll be doing a fashion show, and I'll tell you more about that as well. So you can get Judy's video link in the next couple of days. We have been very blessed through this platform, which we started the 1st of April 2020, to have over 200 presenters, about 20 deaf and hard of presenters, and one deaf and hard of hearing and blind presenter who was from the Hopi and Tewa Nation, that are in our archives. So you can check that out at our website, under the video library where they all are. Very, very interesting stuff. And as I said, Judy's will be there in the next couple of days. And please send them out or share this video with all your beautiful peeps. You can also subscribe to our newsletter if you want to hear more about what's happening, who we're having through the circle at our website, IndigenousWays.org. Below me is all the wonderful media. So if you're beaming in right at this moment through any of the social media, Facebook, Twitter, all of those wonderful things, please be sure to subscribe to our page. We'd love to get those numbers up. And if you're here on Zoom, be sure to subscribe to those pages or enroll in our newsletter. These presentations that we have been doing are free. They have ASL interpreters making access available to all. So we really want to thank our sponsors for this season, which include the National Endowment of the Arts, the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department, the Santa Fe Community Foundation, and that's the Envision Fund, and the New Mexico Arts. We also want to thank our Indigenous Ways board, and some of them are on tonight, as well as all of our individual donors that have made this possible, that we can still be here and hear voices such as Judy's tonight. Powerful, powerful messages that we're very, very grateful to and of. This weekend, we were in Austin, Texas, at the South by South convention that is still going. Tash had the opportunity with 4 other amazing nonprofits, including the Reeves Foundation, MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, and the Green Bronx Machine, sharing about how to save America from a human rights meltdown, really concentrating on philanthropy, where small grassroots organization like the resources that Judy shared on her last show, or Indigenous Ways doing amazing things, but not seeing the $54 billion that was private donations just last year. It goes to the top 100 charities. So that's what they were addressing. Amazing, amazing. We're going to put that video when we get that up on our website for those of you that want to view that. Really amazing stuff. And it was great to be in Austin, Texas, particularly with the beautiful Chicana community that we were blessed to be with, thanks to Dr. Carla Garcia Fernandez, who strongly suggested we connect up with all these people. So thank you for that, and Rogelio. What's happening is May the 5th, June the 2nd, and August the 18th, we're doing our Indigenous Ways Festival in person in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we reside. If you aren't able to be here any of those times, we've got online registrations. Again, if you go to the website, IndigenousWays.org, you will see more about that. We've got extraordinary workshops being facilitated by amazing, amazing people. We've got presenters, including Amy, who is going to be here next month, Robert Mirabal, Joy Harjo, who is the poet laureate, 3rd time running, just this amazing slew. But if you go to our website, you'll be able to see all of that incredible information. We would really love to see you. We have extraordinary Indigenous, deaf and hard of hearing presenters who will be doing workshops and also presenting on stage. Check out who they are. We're very, very excited about this. And then lastly, before we bring everyone on, our donations. If you're able to donate, because you can, please go to our website or these wonderful PayPal, Venmo, or if you're not into the electronics, which you really understand, you can post us if you're able to PO Box 4073 Santa Fe, New Mexico 502. Anyway, I know you've had enough of me, so I'm going to invite all our audiences in Zoom. Now, remember, we're broadcasting out live, so if you're not in any protection program and you're okay being live, whether that be here in our archives or through social media, please feel free to turn on your camera and come and have a little fireside chat with the beautiful Judy, whether that be you wanting to ask her any questions or make any comments that you might have while that is happening. So if you know where your camera is, please feel free, because we want to see you, to be able to do that. And then while everyone's doing that, I'll take us all off thing. Tash, and maybe if
Yes,
you can
thank you
read
very
someone.
much.
Yep, thanks, Tash.
Catherine Reynolds, let's go to you. Hey, Catherine, I can't wait to meet you in person. How you doing? You can sign if you want, Catherine, and we can voice our interpreters if you want.
Yes,
Yeah.
hi, this is Catherine. I'll go ahead and sign. Sorry. All right. So Judy, I just want to say thank you for the presentation. I learned so much about the Lumbee people, and it's really interesting. The thing that I thought was interesting, I didn't know that that the Lumbee people and the Cherokees stayed there. I really did not know that. I thought that was interesting. I guess I need to catch up on my reading of that history.
Yes, I do have the website there for you that you can check out, because there's a lot of rich information within those resources there for you to follow. And if you can't find something that you're looking for, go ahead and send me an email and I'll help you out. And again, on my last slide, I shared those resources. So if you want to take a picture of that slide, you're welcome to.
I'm just going to say we're going to social media while some people are thinking about what they would like to share. If you've got any questions or comments because you are feeling shy, just pop it in the chat box. Otherwise, we'll do popcorn style. But I'm going to go to our social media. We've got Michelle Mormon, who says, "Thank you, Judy, for your story. Your life seems very self-propelled." We have also people beaming in from Aotearoa, New Zealand, where I am from. So a big shout out to Christine Bollock. Thank you for blessing us in this sacred circle tonight. And saying that, have we got anyone in the squares in our Zoom who would like to share any comments or questions you may have for Judy? Yes, GDK.
Hello, hi. I have this book here. This is on the Cherokee. I live in a Cherokee community, and I grew up socializing with Indigenous people and playing horse riding without a saddle. Really, I have a lot of experience with a lot of those people. My mother, on my mother's side, am I signing okay?
I can see you good. I can see you good, GD Kane.
Okay. Let me back up and comment. So I live in Cherokee country in a community. It's east of Oklahoma, and that I've got this book that my mother, on my mother's side, generationally is indigenously Cherokee, and that's where my parents were pioneers from Tennessee, Arkansas, and Missouri. Missouri. They came over into Oklahoma Indian territory and just right at the border. And that's where the mountain is that we live in. So it really is an interesting story. Just to comment about that. So I wanted to say thank you, Judy, for sharing your story.
So I just want to say hello. Hello, Judy. I'm so proud of you and your stories. They were just so eye-opening and amazing. You did such an awesome job. I'm so proud of you and of our Lumbee history. I loved it. Love you too.
Judy Kane said, great story.
I just want to say a really quick hello to James Woodenlegs. If you want to say something, James Woodenlegs, what's up, James, brother? How's it going?
Hello, everyone. Hello, Judy. Yes, hi. I know whenever I met you, it was raining and I met your auntie. Yeah, I know you're Lumbee. I remember it was a long time ago. It was maybe
Yes.
30 years ago that I met you.
And
And Sonia, hello, Sonia.
Oh yeah, Sonia's here. Where is she? I'm trying to look for her. Oh yeah. Hello.
Yep. Hi, everybody, and the interpreters. Tosh, Elena. Hi, everybody.
We also, this is
I do have another video here going to the side, but I just wanted to say thank you.
I think Christina Bueno wants to say something too from New York City. Christina Bueno.
Yes, I'm back here seeing you all, and it's good to see the old faces. I see Sonia, see James Woodenlegs, I see Judy.
Yeah, I think I've seen you before, but where were we?
DCC, remember I used to have
Intertribal Deaf Council, IDC.
IDC, the Tribal Deaf Council, and
yes, that's so amazing. Yes. Let's see. Yeah, it's been a long time.
I know I used to have long hair and braids, but now I've got dyed hair to cover my gray hair.
Well, my hair is gray hair too, so.
Oh, well, I see these old faces. I do see Arlita from Arizona, but I think she just topped off. I wanted to see her.
This is Tasha's voice. Our deaf Navajo elder from LUK, Lukachukai, just stepped off right now, but she's the deaf best friend of mine that taught me sign language when I was 11 years old. So she was here to see you, Judy.
I was very, very inspired by the history portion of the Lumbee Nation. Thank you so much for educating me tonight. I was not aware of all the happenings with the KKK and still your struggles today. It's awesome to hear that you have 60,000 members in your nation. I'm very pleased to hear that. And thank you so much for sharing. I just thought it was a very heartwarming story that you shared with us tonight. And also it's your personal touch that you added. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Homer. You know, we're going to wind up, but I just want to, if there's any other comments that anyone might want to share before we wrap up this evening. While some people are kind of thinking about that, Judy, there's some chats in the Zoom that I'll send to you, but Michelle says, your stories are so powerful. They weave the strands of community. Cynthia H says, very interesting presentation. Thanks. My maternal grandmother was half Cherokee. However, I didn't know how much impact the Lumbee have towards critical progress for civil rights and in fighting oppression of Indigenous peoples. So we'll share a lot of those beautiful comments made by people who came into Zoom. Was there any other one wanting to say any words before we close out? I'd hate to close out and someone go, oh, I really wanted to say this to Judy. Okay.
Yeah, Judy says, I do have one. I remember during my presentation that there was the famous guy that I talked about, the Kevin Sampson from the University of Houston, Texas. So it's one of 4 of I missed that. It slipped my mind. I just wanted to mention it.
Catherine Reynolds, feel free to jump in and help us out.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Judy. Well, on such a powerful level, I do want to say something, and this was from Sonia. She says, hey, Elder Judy, proud of you for telling the story. And that's such a beautiful way to end, because it's the weavings of each of our stories from our ancestry to the walk. And you heard the extraordinary walk that our amazing Elder Judy Stout has done and has been sharing, and how loved she is through the community to have so many people live, so many people on live and social media. This video will be archived, so please share this beautiful knowledge that has been bestowed to you by Elder Judy. So please, let's give it up for Elder Judy.
Thank you.
And we're gonna look forward to seeing all of you next month on April the 19th with the beautiful Amy Danette Deal. Also through the social media, I wanted to say Larry Mitchell, who's going to be playing in August, he said, I'm going to be there too, and thanks. So we've got people all over the show beaming in right now live. And if you're watching this recorded, thank you for blessing us with your essence. This is
Donna,
possible.
we love you. Real
because we
quickly
have
from Ohio, Donna, we love you. We want to thank the our ASL interpreters, Kristen and beautiful Mariah, for staying on way beyond the hour. I
Yay!
know how it is. I'm an interpreter too. Thank you. We love you. We love you. We love you. Thank you.
And also, this would not be possible without each and every one of you. So thank you for showing up, making all of this possible to be able to support our elder, beautiful Judy. And on that note, let's give it up one more time for the one and only Elder Judy Stout. Woo!
Touch the earth. Feel the rain. Touch the earth, touch the